Welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. I am Brent West, along with Jack Lord and Rodney West. And on this program, on this episode, we're going to talk about Jody Hamilton, the masked assassin, a tribute to him. There is no doubt there. If there was a masked man, he's got to be at the top of the list of one of the greatest masked wrestlers of all time. One of the greats in professional wrestling, and we lost him. What was it about a week ago, Jack?
Yeah, just a tad over a week, I think.
Just such a great wrestler, Rodney. The world lost probably one of the greats in wrestling.
The most emulated, I believe, wrestler that has ever stepped in the ring. The assassin. I believe everybody had an assassin one way or the other. If they couldn't get the original, they try to make their own. But of course, never as great as the original. That distinctive voice. It was undeniable who it was when he spoke. And those the phonies out there, when they spoke, everybody knew that's not the real assassin. I mean, he had a very distinct voice, and you knew exactly who he was.
And he had that presence about him. Everything that he did, and he had one of the best fireballs in the professional wrestling business. That thing would go off at the end, and it was tremendous. It would pop at the end. Just a tremendous thing. We're going to bring in right now. Certain people may be coming in and out, plus our insiders that want to tell their stories, and we'll read those through. But right now, we're going to bring in someone that really got started in the wrestling business by Jody Hamilton, and he was a big part of Jody Hamilton while he worked for World Championship Wrestling. Also worked a little bit with Bobby Eaton. He'll talk about him as well. He is a promoter. He promoted wrestling for many years, also the circus business, and we've had him on before. CM, how you doing, sir?
Good evening. Thank you for having me, and I'm very proud and happy that I was invited to be part of this tribute to Jody.
Tell us some stories. How did you meet Jody?
Through Gordon Soley. And he had that Deep South thing he was running up in Atlanta, and thought he could use somebody. I was up there like a month. We got along great. We got some good results with what we had to work with, but it was a small company. It needed to basically just run off the TV because you didn't have a lot of budget to do certain things. And after a month, we both agreed, it was too small for me to be able to make a difference. And we kept in very close contact after that, became good friends after that. And I had decided, I was going to try to get something with Atlanta or New York. And I sent out resumes, made a few calls, and I called Jody, and they were going to have a Clash of Champions in Jacksonville. He said, why don't you fly up to Jacksonville and come up to the show? I said, that's a good idea. So I'm sitting in the lobby of the hotel when he walks in. He said, why don't you go freshen up and meet you downstairs for lunch in 30 minutes? So we get down there. God bless. It's your dad, Ole, and Jody. And I think my sense of humor, as caustic as it may be, leveled up with Ole's because we always got along great. But we're talking, and we get about 2 sentences in, and I'm thinking, Jody already sold Ole on the airplane. This is already a done deal. So Ole says, and that's unfortunately the first time your dad got sick. They had to take him to the clinic. They said he had sinus trouble and this and that, and it was the first indications of heart trouble way back then. And so I found Ole. Ole said, sit over here. He brought Hurt over. Hurt said, I'll give you 3 dates, see what you got. First one, they expected 900. It got 72. And But I could thank Jody for getting me in the door.
Yeah.
And, I had a 2.5, 3 year run there until Bischoff took over and Zane Bresloff took over all the promoters. And he didn't want your dad there, and he didn't want me there. I shouldn't say that. That's my opinion. But your dad said that because we both left at the same time. He didn't want to give us any work, didn't want to pay us anything. And the way that, at least the way your dad operated and I operated, we had to make them think that we had the checkbook. Whether we had to have it approved or didn't have it, because couldn't make a deal if they thought, well, the money's going to come out of Atlanta. This guy doesn't have any say. So I'll give you a couple little Jody stories. And back then we had to give the guys draws every night. And I'm not going to mention any names, one of the talents came to me stumbling drunk and said, and I had a set time for draws. And he said, Jody said, I'm not going to work tonight. Well, he wasn't going to walk that night. So he said, could I get my draw a little early? And I said, absolutely. Go over and tell Jody to give me the high sign. Tell me to give you your draw. I got it right here. Of course, I never saw him again the rest of the night.
And we'll let you wonder who that wrestler was.
Huh?
And I said, we'll let all the people wonder.
Yeah, I'm not mentioning a name. I'm not going to mention names in it. And I don't think that's proper. No. And at that time, Jody was in charge of lining up all the job guys. And back then, it was the old-fashioned stomp them in the ground type squash. And Mike Jackson bring a carload of kids, and Rip Rogers would bring a carload of kids. And one night, one of the guys whipped this kid so bad, his chest was just pouring blood, and chopping him. I mean, some of the guys even give some of them kids a little something. Yeah. But the ones that didn't even give them anything didn't abuse them. But there were some of them that were abusers. And Jody got pissed one night and he said, listen, you assholes, we're going to make this real easy. You're going to make my job easy. I'm not going to have to book these job guys anymore. Just going to throw you guys in, and I'm going to tell you the finish is winners and losers. You guys figure it out.
Yeah, Jody never mistreated the.
Absolutely not. No. He would get. I see him read a couple guys out about, hey, weren't you a little tough on that kid? These kids are just here to get you guys over, and we had something in common that we joked about. When he was 18 years old, him and his brother, who was 7 years older than him, main evented at Madison Square Garden when he was 19 years old. When I was 19, I did the knife throwing act in the sideshow in the basement of Madison Square Garden. So we had something in common. And Jody was telling me, he said, here I'm walking out, and he might have been 18 or 19, walking out, fairly fresh in the business, but his brother had been around a long time. And he said, I'm looking around in this building, and there's more people in it that are in my hometown. To see him wrestle Rocca and Perez back in 1959 or something,
Wow.
And one thing about Jody, he told you, I hate people with gray areas. I like white and black guys. That's why I always liked Jody. And for me, with Jimmy Crockett, he was always that way to me. It was white or black. And don't make me guess. Don't make me run that phony political edge. Tell me yes or no. And Jody was always a man of his word. I remember when we used to play Columbus, and certainly Jack will identify with this, and you guys been there enough time, was not in the best part of town, the building.
Right.
And Jody would always have me take his lovingly, and my heart goes out to her, lovingly Rosemary out to the car, make sure she got to the back door. They're a wonderful family.
Yeah.
A great guy, knew the business inside out, upside down. He was a real credit to the industry.
I believe Jody had done commentary, Jack, if I'm not mistaken, for the new Deep South Wrestling. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, the new episode. I'm not sure if it's out yet, but it should be shortly.
But they did.
Where he did commentary.
He did do the new one, or the one before he got ill.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I'm pretty sure that is going to be tremendous when we get to see that. Tell us a little bit about Bobby Eaton a little bit while you're on here, CM.
All right. Well, Bobby was just always happy. Bobby always had a smile on his face. I would watch in the back, and I'd see some younger kid they were bringing along. I'd watch Bobby just kind of stand there, and the guy come over. You could see he was asking him, and Bobby was always real helpful with the young talent. I mean, not that I was involved in that, but you could see that.
Yeah.
He was always a listening ear that would give you some sage advice. And they tell the stories about him carrying the general store around, and that's true. Because I was looking for something one time, and I said, I don't have any. Bobby said, I got some. Another time I asked somebody, said, ask Bobby. He's got everything. He's got a general store in his bag.
I think what made Bobby so great was that he was a wrestling fan. And he understood when there was a young talent there. He understood what he went through. I mean, he put up the rings at 16 years old in Huntsville for Nick Goulas. So he understood.
He paid his dues.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one. We did Phoenix. And because I think this was booked because the Dream didn't like Terry Taylor. And Terry Taylor had hydrophobia. He was scared to death of heights. And the Dream said, well, you take the bump. I wanted Terry to take the bump off the scaffolds. And Terry is just terrified because he's afraid of heights and you don't want to do it anyway. And they had a little better scaffolding system than some of those things I've seen on tape in Tennessee that looked a little questionable. Were they?
Yeah, I think they were a little rickety. I think they
a little sketchy. Yeah. But anyway, Bobby come up, put his arm around Terry, said, "Don't worry about it. I'll take the bump." Because he was one of the first guys that did those.
Yeah, he was definitely.
He was like the world's greatest bumper.
At 18 years old when he was wrestling for Nick Goulas, and because he started in 1978, didn't he, Jack?
77, 78, somewhere in there.
And he would do anything for anybody. He was just Mr. Wonderful. He was just a nice guy. And guys like me, we depended a lot on the talent that we could use to do meet and greets and stuff that we'd set up with radio stations and have a private meet and greet and was a promotion and stuff like that. And Bobby would always do stuff, and he'd always tell me, I said, you do this, Bobby? We were supposed to do it through the office and line all that stuff, and it never worked. No, you'd send it in the office. It would never get to the guys, so you were much better off just going to the guys yourself and lining it up. And Bobby said, yeah, but I don't have to talk, do I? He could do an interview, but he just didn't want to talk, Yep. So, if it was talking, I'd get Cactus to do it because Cactus had a thing he liked to do. He would like to steal as much time when they were going to cut him off as he could. One time in Sioux City, Iowa, the guy went for the microphone. He put his hand over it and said, if you touch it, I'll kill you. All right. But that was what he liked. But Bobby was just an all-around pro's pro, just a sweetheart. No, I don't have any.
Bad. You can't say anything bad about Bobby Eaton.
I never heard anybody say anything bad about Bobby Eaton. Yeah. And I've heard people say something bad about just about everybody. And Jody, started in the carnival,
Yeah, that's right. He started in
for Gus Karras. When Gus Karras had the carnival, they sold to Sonny Myers. The Sonny Myers sold it to Bill Dillard, who was his brother-in-law.
Well, it goes back a long time. CM, we're going to move on. We're going to talk to our insiders, but thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Sam.
And don't forget to send me the thing.
I'll send you my email when I get off here today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, CM,
right.
and we appreciate it.
All right, I'm going to leave.
CM telling us about Jody Hamilton and Bobby Eaton. The world lost such a great wrestler in Jody Hamilton and a great booker in professional wrestling as well. Came up with some great stuff and trained many wrestlers. There's how many people do you think Jody trained in his time of over the power plant?
Gosh, that would be hard to say. I mean, they had a lot of guys over there that never actually left the power plant because they just never had anything for them to do. I know of a couple of guys that, they contracted. They might have done one or two Thunders, and the rest of the time they were just kind of like a well-paid ring crew. So he had a lot of guys, but he was very helpful to everybody.
You think about the things that he was involved with. When the first time we saw him, I believe the Assassins against Wrestling 1 and 2, many years ago. And then you had that was probably one of the greatest feuds of all time. Robert Walker sent a photograph in, and it was of Jody and of did you see that photograph? Did you see that on his Facebook page?
I did.
If you don't, go to, I think it's John Walker. I believe that's the exact Facebook page. You can go to it and see that photograph that he has of Jody and of his dad together. Tremendous photograph. It will touch you in a way because both those guys are gone now, and they gave so many great memories of wrestling. If you're a Continental Championship Wrestling fan, Southeastern Championship Wrestling fan, you don't really know him as the Assassin. You know him as the Flame, and again, the things he did with Bullet Bob Armstrong, just tremendous stuff. Actually, when he went out. And it's great. You couldn't get away with that today, but he went out to the woods and he put a picture of Bullet on the tree, and he took a gun and he shot it, and he told him, he said, "This is going to be the it. Like he's going to kill Bob Armstrong." But you couldn't get away with that today. But it was such a strong interview. It was such a strong what they call a vignette today. That was just they didn't even call them that back in those days, but. Tremendous stuff, wasn't it, Rodney?
Absolutely. But that's not just in that particular video that he did. That was in every interview he did. The intensity was there. The credibility was there. Never have there been a talent, I don't think, as a mask of talent such as Jody Hamilton. And like you were talking about, behind the scenes, very instrumental. The year when he and Randy Colley were the Assassins, he was actually assistant booker with Bill Watts during that time. So a tremendously gifted man, no doubt.
All right, let's go see what the insiders have got to say. Glenn Shelton is with us. Hello, all. How you doing, Glenn? Good to have you on here. Dan, is that Amon?
Yes.
How you doing? Richard Hood is with us. Cricket Caldwell is also with us. Michael Barr. I think we already said Glenn Allen Shelton. Kevin Penley. Who were the original Assassins with Captain Willie?
I don't know Captain Willie. Not sure who the captain really is. I know I was reading that the Assassins tag team first appeared in Georgia in 1961. He and Jody, Tom Renesto, which I think were the most, famous of all the incarnation of the Assassins. Jody was always the Lynch. He was always the center after they split. Jody was always the center of any Assassin team. And of course, that was that incredible voice that did it. No matter who he was with, Randy Colley. Normally he did all the interviews and the other guy just sort of stood there.
Yep.
Now I wonder, and maybe somebody can answer this because I'm not for sure. When Tom Ernesto, and because Tom Ernesto could do a great interview as well. Yes. Did they both do interviews, or did Tom Ernesto do the interview at that point in time? Because wasn't Tom Ernesto the assassin way before Jody became the assassin? Or did they form that tag team? So maybe somebody knows that, because I'm not for sure.
Yeah, I'm not for sure on that.
Chad Mojo Hitter Coleman is with us. Hey guys, Melody. I'm not even going to try to do that. I'm not even going to try to go with that name. Deepest sympathies to the family and the wrestling world. Talking about Gilbert. And I'm talking, did Jody have anything to do with Bill Goldberg being trained?
Yeah, he trained at the power plant.
So he did train him. And you know what? When he got there, he had that basic ability. He knew what he was doing. Terrence Hardy. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Paul Rucker. Rest in peace, beautiful Bobby. Yes, that was a sad situation, and tomorrow night we'll do the whole hour on Bobby Eaton. That was very, very sad to hear.
To give you a little tie-in with Goldberg there, with Jody training and being over the power plant where he trained at, Goldberg wanted his streak to end by being beaten by Bobby Eaton, because there was nobody he respected more than Bobby.
Wow.
So,
that would have been, and people wouldn't have saw that coming. That was what would have made that great. If they did that, they would not have seen that coming. I mean, I think Steven Regal tried to beat him. I don't really believe he did. All he did was wrestle. That's all he did. If you go back and watch that tape, all he did was wrestle. I mean, he can't help it that that's what wrestling is. Larry Bebop Hathcock, rest in peace, Jody, and beautiful Bobby Eaton. Mickey Mayfield, the rest in peace, Jody Hamilton, the assassin. Thanks for the memories. Chaplain Freddie Rooster Roper. Hey guys, rest in peace, Jody and Bobby, true legends. You know, and I know we throw that name around sometime, legends, but both were legends. No doubt, Jody Hamilton, the masked assassin, was a legend. You know, we sometimes we use that very loosely, and when we say somebody's a legend, but Jody definitely was a legend, and Bobby as well. Victor Nash, hello everyone. I'm dying to see if WL will acknowledge Bobby Eaton's passing tonight on Raw.
I have my TV on over here for that explicit purpose.
Do you think they will? Did they say something about the assassin?
I believe they did. They could have done it on SmackDown, but they didn't. I don't know if SmackDown was pre-taped. I'm not sure. But Bobby did work for them, but it was in a trainer role.
So, but he never. I don't think he ever actually had. Well, he might have went there for a while. Did he go in there as the? Was that the Heavenly Bodies? Was at that point?
No, it was the Heavenly Bodies. Right. No, Bob said he never did wrestle for him.
Michael Barr, Jody Hamilton played the part of heel as good as any heel could. Yes.
Yep.
He was so. One of the things I remember him doing. He was in Southeastern Championship Wrestling. Charlie Platt was the announcer. And he was explaining that Charlie said in the interview, he said, listen, You threw some fire. What did you mean? What did you just say? And he said, well, the video shows. He said, no, what happened is I seen a fireball come from like the third row. I said, watch out, Bob, and I swatted that fireball, and it just so happened to hit Bob Armstrong. I can't help that. I can't help that happened to him. And Charlie was saying, well, wait just a second. And he got right up in his face. He said, you sit there and you shut up and you let me explain this. Can you do that for me? I'll never forget that.
He had a very distinct way of saying Bob Armstrong. It was great. My longtime good friend, Bob Armstrong. It was,
prior to that, they were partners. They were tag team partners. So they always, I never did anything to Bob Armstrong. I've never done anything wrong to him. He's always wronged me. And that's what always makes a good heel. And that was what Jody was good at. Jody always, didn't matter what happened. He always won. He always beat somebody. He never was beat. He never cheated as well. Anthony Louise, I always enjoyed the Assassins versus Dusty Rhodes matches and interviews. I forget about that because that mainly happened in Florida. Maybe they went to South Carolina when Jody was North Carolina. I think Jody booked for Jim Crockett for a while, didn't he?
He was there. I'm not sure about booking.
You forget about Dusty Rhodes and the Assassin and the stuff that they did in Florida. And it's available. It's available on YouTube. You can go back and see the stuff. It was tremendous stuff.
And him out there is El Santos. I think it was. They were going to name the town or give a key or something to Dusty. And he there was a plaque and he took the plaque and hit Dusty over the head with it. And of course he had not been there for a while and he had talked about it. And it was, once he grabbed that microphone, you knew exactly who it was.
Well, from the beginning, I could tell you that wasn't El Santos.
You didn't think that was
a lot bigger than El Santos. Good stuff. It was good stuff. Good stuff back in those days. Richard Hood, rest in peace, Jody Hamilton, Bobby Eaton, and Burt Prentice. And that's the one thing that I've not put on our Facebook page yet, Burt Prentice, because we had just so many people had passed away, and so many people passed away. So I was going to wait on it. But Burt Prentice was a tremendous person in wrestling. We met him in 1987. At the time, we didn't know his name was Burt Prentice. Christopher Love, was who he was. And he had brought some wrestling news magazines, and we were selling them there. And there's a whole big story about Christopher Love our Prentice that we will share. But we bought chairs from him at some point, and I don't even remember what year that was, 1996. And he brought them down. He was always a great guy. Always a great guy. Loved professional wrestling, and I think he gave a bunch of people a start in pro wrestling. Gave them the opportunity to wrestle when maybe nobody else would. So we hate to hear about Burt. He'd been sick for a while, hadn't he, Jack?
Yeah, he's been battling cancer for a good while.
Wow.
Gary Burry, greatest masked wrestler ever. I will agree with that because there was a lot of Mr. Wrestling 2, the Masked Superstar, the Spuller, but the Assassins have to be right up there. And you know what? It didn't matter who Jody had as his tag team partner. It didn't matter if it was Ray Hercules Hernandez, Ray Fernandez. It didn't matter if it was Randy Colley. He made the other guy. It didn't really matter. It was if as long as Jody was there and he was doing the interviews, it was going to be gold. I felt so bad for Cornette on this podcast. Yes, very sad. If you've not watched it or listened to it, I guess you can only listen to it. Go and listen to it. It's a very heartfelt podcast. It's over 2 hours, and it was good. I listened to it today myself. So
I haven't yet. I've got it bookmarked to here. I just hadn't been ready.
Yeah, it's a very sad. He tells us some stories about him, but it's hard for him to do so. Dr. Philbold Grice is with us. Hello, everyone. Fernando Zayas. Zayas. Beautiful Bobby was one of the best tag team wrestlers ever.
Yep.
And if you didn't get to see him as a single wrestler when he first started for Nick Goulas, he was tremendous. And everybody talks about doing interviews. He could do a great interview back in those days. And then he ended up being part of the Jet Set with George Goulas. And it was tremendous. He was just good from the beginning. So, and we'll talk more about him. There's a lot that we can talk about him tomorrow. We got to watch him from the beginning, basically, in Chattanooga. So, rest in peace, Bobby Bowden. I heard about that yesterday. How old was Bobby Bowden?
91.
91 years old. One of the greats in football. Mickey Mayfield. Joe Hamilton Jr., our prayers are with you and your family. I think now he's just making sure he takes care of his mother, from what I've heard. Glenn Allen Shelton, we may have already did this, but rest in peace, Bobby Eaton, Jody Hamilton, Burt Prentice. Michael is with us. How you doing, Michael? Let's go on down and see. Chad said, when I heard the loss to Bobby Eaton, I was so shocked because he was one of my favorite favorite tag team wrestlers of all time and one of the best great of all time in any decade. Yes, he just had that natural ability. He was just good. Now, I'm possibly since he grew up in Huntsville, I would say Bobby D may have had something to he may have something to do with how great he was because I know Arvo
Arvel
he helped train him as well, correct? Because they were
he was also Bobby's first tag team partner.
They were called the Bombers or something, weren't they? The Brown Bombers.
Brown Bombers.
They were in under mask, and that's how they started doing jobs and stuff on television. But some great stuff. Kevin Penley, did Jody and Larry ever team together? Yes. Yeah, we just heard CM say that they teamed with each other in did he say 1959?
1959, and they tagged through sometime in 1960. He walked away and wanted to do singles, and he was billed as Silent Joe Hamilton because he did not have good interview skills at that time. Amazing, isn't it, for a guy who is known as much for his ring, ability, but behind that microphone, he was as great as they came.
That's right.
But there was a time
that he had to be silent.
Yep.
That's incredible. Gary, great tribute, guys. Thank you so much. Dennis Mitchell said Jody will be missed. The voice of his and chills to your spine. Yeah, he had that. He just had that voice. Sounds like Black Bart. I don't know what he's even talking about.
That would be the drunk guy that CM was giving a draw to. I saw that pop up just as soon as he was talking about the drunk guy that we're going to talk about him. It could have been Black Bart.
Hello, guys. Rick Brooks, how you doing? Tim LaFontaine. Evening, guys. Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Tim. I'm not going to the replies to.
Here's one stat I want to quote right here. The Georgia Tag Team Champions 12 times. 12 times the Assassins, the Georgia Tag Team Champions. Amazing.
Yes, that is.
I mean, and you think about it though. Jody was a top draw everywhere he went. Not just Georgia, but everywhere he went. Yeah,
there was nowhere that he went. He did some great stuff in the Jim Crockett's. Had great matches, and those are available on YouTube. If you've not seen them, they are available on there. You can go watch them. And it's just he was such for a big guy, he could move, drop kicks, beautiful drop kick by Jody Hamilton. I mean, it was just tremendous what he could do in the ring. Doug Masters is with us. Hello, gentlemen. How you doing? Tim said, I love the old school wrestlers. The believability factor was there. And you believed everything Jody Hamilton did.
Yep.
You believed what the Masked Assassin, when he said something, you believed what he said was going to be the truth. And even though he may have lied a little bit, some things, especially about throwing fire. No man could ever throw fire. That can't happen.
It's impossible. Yes.
Tremendous stuff. I don't even know if that's available. I had that on a video, on a video somewhere that I would love to get and show everybody that. The worst I ever saw ambushing job guys was Ronnie Garvin.
Abusing.
Abusing. Oh, what did I say?
Ambition. It's like
well, it was kind of like an ambush at times.
That's right.
Yeah, you know what though? I didn't think Ronnie Garvin was as bad as some people could be.
Ronnie looked like he was hurting you, but he wasn't.
No.
Not to say you didn't feel him, but he wasn't. He was not trying to hurt you.
And Jack, you might be able to answer this question. At what point in Jody's career did he start wrestling as the assassin?
Well, in 1961, he was offered the opportunity to come to Georgia. And originally, he was supposed to come in as the Iron Russian. And for whatever reason, once he got there, they changed the name to the Assassin. Tom Renesta was also doing the Assassin gimmick somewhere else. So they brought him in to tag with Jody.
Okay.
And then they tagged for about 12 years, I think, after that.
Yeah, tremendous. And, that would have probably still been going strong into the 80s if Tom didn't get he decided he wanted to go completely to the office and become a booker and at some points even a commentator on Nick Goulas' show.
Another tremendous voice, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Michael Barr, Bobby Eaton was one of the best school wrestlers as well. Glenn Allen said 1976. What were we asked?
That when Bobby started, and that's correct because he and I had talked about that not too long ago.
Hi everyone from Joel Bateman. Now is that when he was? I guess that was when he was doing the thing with as the Brown Bomber, right?
Yeah,
because he wouldn't have been old enough at that point in time to even wrestle, really.
Well. I didn't bother Nick. So
the Brown Bomber has so many things can be said about it.
Yeah. Hey, you got to remember now, Jack the Bomber Lord.
It wasn't the Brown Bomber. Well, now was it?
Yeah, never did have any colors associated with it. Although there's a few times maybe there should have been.
Kevin Pentley, Brad Armstrong, Bobby Eaton, Ricky Steamboat, Ricky Morton, Barry Windham, they all worked hard at their craft. Yes, they did. Michael Barr said the boots of these wrestlers cannot be filled. There'll never be another Masked Assassin. They broke the mold.
No, not with that talent now.
No, he had it all.
He was
psychology, interviews, wrestling skills. He had it all. We have lost a lot of people. The Assassin, Bobby Eaton, Paul Orndorff, Burt Prentice. So many people have passed away in just this year alone. Tim Lofatane, I don't know if that's how you say his name, but I just like to say that. They were a type of people, they were the type of people that were best that wrestling offers. And they were because they loved, not only that, they understood the fans and they loved the fans. That group of wrestlers wrestled for the fans. They didn't wrestle for themselves. They wrestled for the fans. Jody Hamilton he went out there to perform for the fans, not for the wrestlers in the back. He wanted to to entertain you. If you paid $10, or even back then it wasn't that much, maybe $5, $6, he wanted you to get $12 worth of entertainment out of what he did. And that was important to even Bobby Eaton. That was important to Paul Orndorff. It was important to those guys to make sure that whatever money you paid, that you got double of that back. And that was very important to the guys. All the old school wrestlers really wanted to make sure that you were entertained. And Jody did such a great job at it. I mean, really, where did you ever see Jody Hamilton wrestle as the Masked Assassin or the Flame that you didn't leave and remember what he did? And that's just, that was, you might forgot everything else, but you remember Jody went down in there, put something in there. He missed the guy, hit the turnbuckle, bam, he got beat 1, 2, 3. You would always remember what Jody Hamilton, the Masked Assassin. Jody did a great work in the Mid area with Paul Jones as well. Yes, good stuff. There's some real good stuff there. Glenn Allen Shelton, Bobby was the greatest. He showed up early. He just wanted to be with the guys. He's going to be missed. Yes, no doubt. Dr. Philbo Grice, I watched some of Eaton's matches over the weekend. He seemed to be a class act. Oh, yeah, he was.
Totally.
And never had a problem with anything. You went out there and you told him, hey, tonight you're gonna slip on a banana peel and then you're gonna get. He didn't care. He understood it didn't matter. Jody Hamilton understood it didn't matter if you won or lost. It didn't matter, and it doesn't matter. Nobody cares really. It's what you did in the ring to make them remember you. Russell Lee, rest in peace, assassin, one of the greatest heels of all time. Was he ever a babyface?
I guess Bobby Eaton he was.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes, he was.
But very rarely did he ever work as a babyface. If he did it, I don't remember it. Kevin Penley, how many seminars did Bobby do with you, Jack?
We actually had one planned for later this year. Bobby, has been having health issues for a while, and we knew he wasn't quite up to being able to do that yet. But that was our plans, is around November we were going to try to have one.
Richard Hood, Jody had some of the best interviews ever. Yes, he did. If you've never seen it, there's an interview between Wrestling 2 and the Masked Assassin from Georgia Championship Wrestling. Yeah. That is, and they're standing at the set. Rodney, just to tell a little bit about that story.
That's awesome. The assassin is trying to go into a confrontation, and he's doing a great job of it. See, this is the reason the man cannot control his emotions. You're an emotional person right now. You can't control your emotions, and he goats him into this big fight. And of course, Two's getting, he's getting kind of heated. He said, well, some people wear their mask because they're trying to protect themselves, probably from owing money for other people. I'm not that way, that kind of thing. It was great. It was. And then the assassins beat him up, picked Two up, and I think that's what Richard was talking about.
And that was when Wrestling 1 came in.
Yes.
And they just Wrestling 1 and 2 went against the Assassins in Atlanta. Good stuff. You can watch it all on YouTube. It's available there. Nash Vegas loved his mic skills in Florida. He never raised his voice, but got the point across. Yeah. He did. And if he did raise his voice, because he didn't do that often, you listened.
Yep.
Listen to what he had to say, because now you knew he was really mad. Thomas Alexander is with us. Stuart Kemp, hello all, such a loss this year. It just seems it is going to get worse. I hope not, but it has been one of those years, no doubt. The Assassins started out first as the Bolos. Yes, while they were in, and now this would have been around 1973, though. I think they were the Assassins first, though, Richard, because, and the reason I say that, because in 1973, for some reason, Jim Crockett did not want to use them as the Assassins. I don't know why, but our father was there at the time. And Tom Ernesto was on his way to Atlanta, going to be on his way to Atlanta to book again. He maybe had booked before, I'm not for sure, but he was going to book Atlanta. And at this time, what's the guy's name now? Mine's what my Gunkel. Ray Gunkel was still alive, and so he was going to book for Ray Gunkel. He asked our father to go there with him to be the referee, and he did, and he stayed there for 11 years. But I'm thinking they were the Assassins, because didn't we say they were the Assassins in 1961?
Yes.
And they, I don't think they went back to, and they could have been the Bolos before 1961, but I don't think they were.
No, they were not. The Bolos came just with in the Carolinas. The biography thing I'm looking at right here doesn't say why, but Tom was called the Great Bolo, and Jody was called the Mighty Bolo.
Okay, and I knew that it had done that because there's a story, and we can share that our father tells about them as the Bolos, and there is, I think he tells why they didn't wrestle as the Assassins there.
That was a masked team as well, the Bolos.
I believe it was.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. But there was some reason why they didn't use the Assassins. And he tells the story. I'll have to figure out what that story is. Love the confrontations between Wrestling 2 and the Assassin, with Gordon Soley trying to keep them apart. Yes. Yeah, good stuff. Thomas Williams is with us as well. Thomas, welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. Glenn Allen Shelton, he trained guys when Memphis was developmental. Tracy and Bobby. Okay. Michael said he remembers. Remember when Jody dressed up? That's he's talking about.
Right.
Wrestling in Florida and gave Dusty a baseball. Well, we've already had some cussing on this show anyway, so but I won't say it. But people agree what it says. Out of him, never will forget it. What a talent, Jody and Bobby Eaton, just naturally in the ring. Rest in peace. Bobby and Jody. Yes, that was a very strong angle back in those days. The Midnight Express, Stanley and Bobby Eaton. Joe Bateman says this in his top 5 tag teams of all time. I seem to like Dennis and Bobby better than I did Bobby and Stan. Not that they didn't have good matches.
Yeah,
and
right. Well, Bobby told me that there was just he thought he and Dennis gelled better together, but he thought Stan made him raise his level of the entertainment aspect of the match up. And so he enjoyed working with both of them. But his favorite tag team of all time was with Coco Ware.
Oh, man, they did some stuff. Oh, if you've never seen it, because they were doing things that at that point in time nobody was doing. Bobby was doing the stuff. He was Cactus Jack before Cactus Jack was even around. He was doing stuff off the top rope and falling off. He was doing all that stuff back in the 1970s. So late 70s, but he was tremendous, and Coco Ware was tremendous. Coco was trying to do all that stuff too, because he would do the stuff on the top rope. I think he liked Jerry Lawler. He grew up watching Jerry Lawler, so that was his idol. A lot of people's idol then. At that point in time.
Well, actually, they had no other choice.
That's right. Oh, did Jody ever brawl with any fans of the matches? I'm pretty sure he did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't. Can you imagine? I hear those early days with the Assassins in Georgia were some heated.
There are no stories where Jody did not have the upper hand when it was over.
This is true.
I'll just leave it at that.
Michael, Michael, the Assassin was great on the mic. Yes. Jody did you a book, right?
Yes, he did.
We don't have to read through that book. and get a little bit of information off that book.
It was written by, I believe, Scott Teal was co-writer. The Assassin, the Man Behind the Mask.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get that and read that book and see what it was. Joe, my number one. I don't know. Watching the Assassin in Mid-South now. I forget that he was in Mid-South Wrestling.
Yes, he was.
He went everywhere. I think he went to every territory at least once or twice or even 3 times and drew money everywhere he went. Michael said, rest in peace. Bobby Eaton, the Assassin, saw them as kids. Let's see. Jordan, rest in peace. Rest in peace, Bobby, Bert, and Jody. I've been seeing this show in Georgia that y'all are promoting. Yes, October 8th. We will do our first show. And let's see. Glenn Allen Shelton said he ran NWA anniversary shows in Nashville. He just did a show. I guess they did a show, 2 shows. Look like great crowds. And I guess is what Bert was running. Will that continue, Jack? Have you heard?
Yeah. I believe his sister is now over the promotion. And as far as that NWA anniversary show, I went to that. That was 3 years ago now. Surprisingly, and a heck of a crowd, and Lord have mercy, what a show! It was fantastic.
Kevin said that he thought that Burt Prentice wrestled as an assassin at one time, and we said most imitated wrestler of all time.
Exactly right.
How many masked assassins have there been? And if it wasn't the masked assassin, it was the Russian assassin. You know.
New York Assassins.
New York. You know, we tend to think of a lot of the older guys put over the old days as being so great, and you know everything was above board, and it was not. We had our underbelly back then, just the way we do now. You know, there was the full out outlaw promotions that were ripping off every gimmick out there. I mean, my first night, there was an assassin on the card. There was a superstar on the card. There was a Mr. Wrestling on the card.
You didn't happen to work for Nick Goulas that night, did you?
No, but they had. and I'm not joking about that, but they had.
They did that a lot, and really that was the reason that I don't think Jody wanted to wrestle in Southeastern, because they had a lot of assassins on television.
Yes,
being beat, and I think he did not want to be he did not want to be associated with all that stuff. So he came up with a Flame, and it was tremendous. It was a tremendous gimmick. You know, it was no different. He was still the assassin, just being called the Flame.
And through those great fireballs, yes.
Yeah, oh, man.
Caught him, intercepted him.
That's right.
That's right. You did
I
right.
diverted it. I was able to slap it away, and it hadn't hit him in the face.
And if we're going to be completely Nick Goulas honest here, I was the one throwing the fireballs from ringside.
Glenn Allen Shelton, Burt was a great wrestling mind. Michael, I met Jody in Atlanta and told him he scared me as a kid. He did that to a lot of people. He just had that way about him. Greg Zimmy said that, I think it's Zimney, WWE website has a write-up on Bobby.
They did a very good one on there. I noticed they did not do a graphic for him tonight. I think they should have, but they did do a great write-up. William Regal, if y'all want to go look it up, did a great tribute to him also today.
Yeah, he teamed with him, I think, as the Blue Bloods for a while in WCW. And
talking about how much he learned from Bobby, that when they were wrestling against each other, he said sometimes my jaw would drop, and he said I would get out of the match because I was in so much amazement of how good he was. And he said, and I'd have to snap myself back into character, because then I'd realize, hey, I got to keep up with this guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ron Woodard said, I like the way Jody would not get loud, not get crazy. He just calmly told you he was going to beat you up and you believed.
Yep.
And you know what was so good about Jody is especially in Atlanta, he might go against Wrestling 2 and Wrestling 2 beat him. But he never got on television and acted like he ever was defeated. You know, he was, you know, and he never went back to Atlanta on a Friday night. He would get booed as much, and he got beat the week before.
Yep.
But then when he would load the mask or he would take the thing, you know, I always loved him because he would pull that thing up over and he'd rake the guy's eyes. That to me, that was just. It just showed what he could do, and the people go nuts. And when he did beat Wrestling 2, or he did beat Tony Atlas or Tommy Rich, or whoever he was wrestling with, people were really, really mad. Because a lot of times he's a cheat to get to beat him, and it was just tremendous stuff. Classic wrestling stars, like when Jody became the Flame against Bullet Bob Armstrong in Continental Pro 1 with shotguns, pistols, and knives.
Yeah, that's right.
That would never get that never hit the television these days. That might even get took off of this because we used those words. Let's see. Remember Mickey Mayfield. Remember when Superstar the Assassin Superstar teamed together? Yes. Atlanta, Georgia. They had all kinds of masked wrestlers at that time. Because Wrestling 2 was there as well. So the only person they were missing at the time was Mil Mascaras.
They weren't missing him at all.
Good show tonight, Jack, Brent, Rodney, and great memories and respect to those that passed. Yes. The feud between Jody and 2 was tremendous. Yes, it was. He was just so good. Has anyone heard from Jim Cornette? Yeah, he's talked on there's a long 2-hour show that I've listened to.
I will try to post that link on my Facebook. Anybody that wants to go to my page and find it.
Yeah, it's tremendous. So he tells some great Bobby Eaton stories. So make sure you get there and watch that. Richard Hood, he went babyface in Mid-Atlantic against Paul Jones. Well, there you go. We got the answer that we wanted to know. He was babyface in this Deep South promotion, Richard Hood said. I didn't get to watch a lot of that Deep South stuff. You know, really, I don't guess that was bought by WWE, was it? The Deep South stuff?
Not technically. They hired him to have a developmental territory for them, but he was able to keep the name, when they withdrew from them.
I had talked to Jody several times. We were in talks with him for at least a month, and we were going to start promoting the shows and using the developmental wrestlers. And all at once, we didn't hear from him. When we finally heard from him, he said that I think that might have been John Laurinaitis. I believe that was the person who cut that out.
Yeah, it was an overnight deal because they finished up training one day and came in the next day, and there was moving trucks packing everything up.
That's just crazy. I believe he did sue them, by the way, and I believe he did win.
I believe he did.
I believe Jody won that. He was a babyface. We already said that. Rick Brooks, you were recently talking about Karl von Hess that was supposedly a Russian. I always associate with von Hess name. Yeah, he was German. I may have said Russian, but he was a German. And that's an interesting story. It's an interesting story in this. Just that little bit of that we talked about on there. That's just a little bit of the whole story. That's just incredible. Bobby Heenan was never a face. I don't think he ever did. Kevin said, talk about the unmasked angle for Aaron Gunkel. I'm not for sure I knew that. Did y'all know he did that?
No.
There was
Is he
there
talking about
something
Tom
about Tom Renesto unmasking? Maybe that's
he
what he's
did
talking
that.
about.
But it
Because
wasn't
supposedly there were pictures that were going to be released of them unmasked, and Tom beat it to the punch where it wouldn't be such a big newsworthy thing.
Oh, so he just took his mask off, because I don't think Jody did, though,
No, Jody did not.
because basically Tom was going into the promotion side of it, and I believe that was done before Ray Gunkel passed away, which may lead you to believe they were on their way of doing that before Ray passed. Richard Hood, wasn't Jody the first man to unmask two? I believe that might have been Toru Tanaka, which it may have been somebody before then. Tim Woods might have. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't tell you if it was Jody. We'd have to look that up and see if there's anything that ever says. Jody talked about pulling a gun on some fans that wanted to take his mask off. I guess this was in his book. Joe French talks about Sterling Brewer, out of great announcer, by the way. If you've never heard commentary from him, he was really good. Hilton Miller, rest in peace, great memories, the family and true legends of professional wrestling. Mickey Mayfield, at his heaviest weight, Jody's mask looked like if you grabbed it just right, it would have flown into the bleachers. Well, Jody go, he would surprise you. He'd be in the ring and when he'd hit the drop kick, he would just surprise you because you didn't think that a man that size could do that. But he always would just, you would just, it didn't matter if you hated him. You had to kind of go, well, yeah, pretty good. I mean, you couldn't help but say, man, this is tremendous. Let's see. They were going to expose them during the split. I guess they're talking about. Rodney, give us some your final thoughts on Jody.
Well, like I said, he was one of a kind, no doubt about it, and a top draw wherever he went. Was talking about 13 or 12 times. Well, including with Randy Colley, 14 times Georgia Tag Team Champions. Very important to the Georgia area, and huge in the Mid-Atlantic, big time in Florida. And luckily, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about can be seen right now. And never, like I said, never will there be a talent like Jody Hamilton. And many times imitated, but never duplicated. They could put as many masks on people as they wanted to, but everybody knew when they did the interview that opened the mouth, they knew it wasn't the real assassin.
I'm going to turn on there's a couple of, it may not be Jody, but there are some photographs. I'll have to get some photographs and put them on our Facebook page of Jody in the next week. And for those of you who would like to see some photographs of Jody Hamilton as the assassin, Jack, what's your closing comments?
Well, for those of us of a certain age, we of course remember the greatness of Jody in the ring, and everybody knows my top masked wrestlers were wrestling to and Masked Superstar, but Jody was right there in that mix. You can't talk about great masked wrestlers, and if he ain't your top five, then your list ain't worth having. But the newer wrestlers now today still have a lineage to him that they don't understand, because at the power plant, he was instrumental in producing the talent of Kevin Nash. We'll have to forgive him for that one. Diamond Dallas Page, Bill Goldberg, Big Show, and so many others that came out of that school.
Yeah, he was instrumental in a lot, and it was all behind the scenes. A lot of people didn't know that Jody Hamilton. Let's remember the Slamboree. One of the best things that was done was Jody Hamilton when he came out there as the Masked Assassin. I don't believe Dusty Rhodes might have been a part of that as well. the back and forth between those two is tremendous, and I'm pretty sure that can be seen on maybe can be seen on the WWE Network. I'm not for sure.
I'm not sure. I bet it is.
Yeah,
as long as they didn't cut the interview out.
That's right. Dusty gave the big bionic elbow, and the place exploded.
It did tremendous stuff. Jody did a lot of stuff behind the scenes from 1990 on that people probably would not know that he was a part of. But tremendous, and was with World Championship Wrestling from the beginning. That Ted Turner bought it until the end. And
of course, he also gave us one of the greatest referees of the modern era, and Nick Patrick.
Yes.
And Nick, our condolences do go out to you, brother. We know you've lost a great man, and we love you.
Yes, we certainly do. Let me get a couple. Tom Ernesto said that happened on All South Wrestling. Charles Bellflower said Tom Ernesto unmasked on All South. What a shock. I watched it on TV. Ray Gunkel had died. And thus, Ann Gunkel started promotion, and I believe that Tom Ernesto was like a vice president or something at that point. Joel Bateman, did the assassin work as a wrestler for 40 years or longer? Yes, I think so. We're talking 1959 at least when he started, and he wrestled up until 1990, I believe. Up to the time he went to work for World Championship Wrestling and Ted Turner. I think he had wrestled, so very, very long time, maybe 30 years. Maybe 30 years he wrestled.
But stayed involved in the business for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and just tremendous at what he did, and understood, and you would love to sit with Jody if you just had the opportunity to sit with him, and he would tell you his wrestling philosophies and the things that he would come up with was just incredible. Just to sit there and listen to him talk was tremendous. Jeremy Kane Travis. I had always thought Larry Sharp trained Big Show. I believe that he may have started there, but I think he ended up WCW at the power plant. I'm pretty sure he might have started there, but he did go to the power plant. Yeah. I think they pushed him through there quickly because he's just a big old guy. But Carlene Land said, "Rest in peace, Joe." We've lost some great people during this year, and somebody said something that on this one that who's going to fill their shoes? Bobby Eaton nobody will ever fill his shoes. Jody Hamilton, no one ever to. Paul Orndorff, the folks we've lost this year, nobody will ever fill those people's shoes. There'll never be another Masked Assassin. There'll never be another Bobby Eaton, and there'll be another Paul Orndorff. We've lost some great ones, and it just keeps on. It keeps on happening time after time, month after month. We lose somebody great in pro wrestling, and we hope that we do our part here and keep their memories alive. And that's what we want to try to do each and every week. Watched the show the other night with the Sarge on the power plant. Yeah, he was a trainer as well.
And we're going to be doing that appearance next month. What is it? September 23rd, I believe.
Yes.
And Dalton and Sarge is going to be there.
Oh, that's great. That's great. We can maybe we can throw an interview in there. Maybe he'll talk with us that day. If you are in the Dalton area, try to get there out there and see us. We'll have some tickets for the October 8th show as well. We're going to go ahead tomorrow night. We're going to do a host show on beautiful Bobby Eaton, and me and Rodney will share our thoughts on him because we got to see him from the beginning. And Jack, you might have been able to see him from the beginning too because you picked up the Chattanooga TV.
I sure did.
So we got to see him and knew that he was going to be a superstar one day. We just knew it. And when they brought him to Atlanta, we thought, man, this is his time. And had some great matches there. They just didn't use them the way they should have in 1980. Thank you all so much. We certainly do appreciate. That's right. We did lose the Patriot, Del Weeks. It's just so many people passed away this year, and the year before. So many people. Thank you all so much. We'll talk to each every one of you tomorrow night as we look at beautiful Bobby Eaton. And for those who are in Insider Nations, we will come back to our regular schedule next Monday. But tomorrow night we will only do the show on Bobby Eaton. Jeff,
and we do have a guest lined up for next Monday.
That's right, we do. Do you want to go ahead and say?
I talked to Steve Armstrong of the legendary Armstrong family, and Steve is really looking forward to coming on and talking to everybody and giving his thoughts. And I almost forgot, he had wanted me to mention about how Jody had given him and Tracy their jobs at WCW. He said, we were doing Japan, we were doing Mexico, and he said Japan was good. He said you couldn't stay there long at a time back then. He said Mexico, you could work all the time, but you didn't make no money. And he said we were starving to death. And he said we made a call to Jody. He said Jody called my wife, and she called me in Mexico and said, get on the next plane to come to Atlanta. I've got you a job. And he said that's how simple it was. He said, now we had to send tapes in. He said, Dad's name did not get us a job. He said, we had to send tapes in. But he said, Jody had, once he got those with phone call, then he gave us a job. He said, changed our lives.
Yeah, that was Steve and Tracy, a great tag team.
Yeah.
Eventually would change their names to the Young Pistols there in WCW. All right, guys, we will see everybody next week. Thank you so much for being a part of the show, and we'll see everybody tomorrow night as we pay tribute to beautiful Bobby Eaton tomorrow, and then make sure you join us next Monday as we interview Steve Armstrong. See everyone tomorrow night.